my adage for me in my darkest days is tuck my chin and throw punches. As long as I'm down, I'm covered, and I'm just putting the work in. I know that tomorrow I'll get up and the sun will shine. And never make a decision based upon what you feel today. Worst thing ever. Call someone now, tell them it's a dark day, and then just get up tomorrow morning and go again. Tuck your chin, go, tuck your chin, go. And you will fight through to daylight.
Calls your name, where the steel meets the soil and the fire fuels the flame. We stand on the edge of tomorrow's fight, holding the line through the day and the night. Full spectrum frontiers, riding hard, standing tall, from the heart of the people to the rise and the fall. Full spectrum frontiers.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Full Spectrum Frontiers. My name is Bennett Tanton, and today we have a very special guest, Dr. John A. King. He, you know what? I'll let him tell you who he is and what he does and where you can find him.
Hey, g'day, mate. Hey, well, great chatting. So me, the accent's a bit South Texas. So Australia originally.
Really, South Texas?
It's really South Texas. Like really South. So I got to America playing first after 9/11. Love it. Became an American citizen. I'm not an Australian American. I'm just a flat out American. I love this country. It's been very, very good to me. And I'm very proud to be a citizen, have a certificate, man. Like it's one of the greatest achievements I've done in my adult life.
Amazing.
And so I love it. And I mentioned before, I was, I work in tech. When I got there serendipitously, I was trafficked as a kid. And after I had recall of those events for about 14 years, I was trafficked, and I had recall of that back in 2008. And it was a total implosion of my life. I lost everything, my businesses. I had a chronic stutter. I was ended up in a 1-bedroom apartment with mattress on the floor, like a bloody college student again. And I had to build back. And part of that process was I was trying to work out, how do I get a message to the world about the fact that boys and men are about 50% of all trafficking victims, and that women are about 45 to 50% of all perpetrators, because no one's talking about it. And no one was there, and no one was, all these guys I was meeting, that couple of people did documentaries on my life, and I was meeting these people, these men, and they were saying, no one's talking about this stuff. And I wanted to start this series of conversations. So I ended up doing investigations into using tech to identify victims of trafficking. And we did through iris readings with high-D cameras using technology, because the iridology, you can actually see in the right eye, you can actually see there's a segment of the eye where you can see if someone's been traumatized. So with high-definition cameras, we could find the people, geoscrape locations, hand over, all that sort of stuff. And so I ended up in this rabbit hole. And it's been an amazing journey on using tech. We were doing old school AI before AI was a thing.
Right.
And just being able to help people,
Yeah.
And it's been fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. So I'm an author. I write books. I do a lot of training. I developed something called the Phoenix Tech Collective, because it took me about 15 years and $300,000 to recover. And I took all that information and put it into a course for people, so that they don't have to spend that much time nor that much money, scraping the crap together that this life and turning it into something profitable,
Yeah.
So, so that's me.
And what's the best place to find you?
drjohnaking.com. If they go there, and they'll find out all about our courses, or on social media, like Dr. John A. King. I'm on every platform that's, well, they keep inventing them. So I just stopped. I got bored.
Right.
Yeah.
So your life is really one of profound personal trauma, but followed by the rebuilding, right, of your life.
Yeah.
So, like, what was the moment when you realized you were not just surviving, but transforming that pain into purpose?
Great question. Man, there's really no people. I think people would like to have answers like that really stock and say at this point, this and this happened. And
Yeah.
I think with trauma, however we come to trauma, there is a big T and there's a little t trauma. We just need to accept that, it's not all the same. And we've got different areas of our life which might be traumatic, but then there's things where people just are put into situations that it totally changes the way their brain functions, which is the underlying concept behind post traumatic stress disorder. So we've got these things, and so you come through a series of processes. And I would say after 16 years I had recovery, I had recall in 2008, and we're now up to 2026. I would say the last 2 years, I felt like I've got my feet under me.
Mm.
But along the way, I had these milestones that happened. So for the first 5 years, I read probably 200 books because there was nothing on men being abused. There was
Right.
nothing on women
Yeah.
being abusers. There were no support groups. Bro, in Texas, there's one house for trafficked and abused men in the nation. It's in Justin. There's another one going into North Carolina. So, and here we have, 45% of people who are trafficked and abused are male, 55% in some areas. Perpetrators female, 45%. It's a gender political issue. It's not a human rights issue, which is a concern.
Yeah.
So when you talk about this advocacy process or wanting to get into it, I got to a stage about 5 or 6 years in, and I thought I was writing poetry anonymously and stuff, and I thought if I can just help one other bloke realize he's not alone, that I've done good. And so that's where I started, and I started anonymously, and I started very slowly, and I ended up a couple of documentaries made about my life and all that sort of stuff, and I found I was able to help people. And, so this journey along on having to work on this pretty much on my own. I did see a therapist at a time, but again, a lot of these therapists are designed that they either have, and a lot of my military mates, and when I was working on the NIGAR stuff and the Epstein stuff, I'd meet a lot of these, pipe hitters, TIG-1 guys, guys that have done some stuff. And one of the challenges they had is the people they were talking to across the table had no idea of their experience in the sandbox. There was just no one you could talk to about it. And so I'm talking with these fellas, and I find out that a lot of them had massive childhood issues. We're talking 85% of them.
Oh, yeah.
And, you'll never mess with me or mine again, so I'll become a hard man.
Yeah. I'm one of them. So
There you go.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's wild.
And you can't go to the VA. Here you are. You've done some stuff overseas for God and country, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I just did some things. Okay, yeah, bad things, but that's not what keeps me up at night. What keeps me up at night is the baseball coach when I was 11. I really need to unpack that with a therapist. Hey, listen, you can't do that, Bennett, mate, because that's a pre-existing condition and you'll lose your benefits. Okay, so I won't talk about it and I won't get well. Okay, well, so if we're talking about up to 85% of people in the military have that, and we wonder why we've got a 22 a day. Now, the VA's latest records on military sexual trauma, 40% of all cases of reported military sexual trauma are male. That doesn't account for the non-disclosed one. It's tragic, the number about ladies, 895,000. Men are between 1.2 and 2.2 million. And no one's talking about that. So I know we started the recording beforehand. You were asking what I was writing on. I've gone down this track of, using, doing a range of things around the Epstein cases and true life stuff. And my latest book that I'm working on, called Till It's Done, is on military sexual trauma. And I'm a bit of a Don Quixote, mate. I'm a bit of a windmill charger. These are topics no one wants to talk about. No one might buy the bloody thing, but I just think I just want to put it in print, man, because I feel like I've charged this windmill. Some bastard buy this book. It'll help you. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
My agent doesn't think that's not a good strategy. I said, yeah, well, you know what? Let him go buy Tom Carr's book, Lone Wolf, and he can make some money. I'm charging fucking windmills,
Yeah. Right. I love it.
My
So
wife's not too sure about this career as an author. Like, yeah, I don't know if anyone's buying it. Yeah, but what else am I going to write about? She goes, yeah, okay, we'll make some money other ways.
yeah, because
Yeah,
one way
okay,
or another, I'm publishing it, whether I do it on Amazon or
yeah,
through you, it's happening. So
yeah. I know that's the conversation I'm having.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you often talk about living well despite trauma.
yeah.
What does that actually mean in practical terms for someone listening who may be struggling today?
Um, so I probably the best way is just the only way I've got context for is how I did it. Um, my first key was a couple of things happened simultaneously. One, I got sick of hearing the mantra in my mind, "Why aren't I normal? You've just got to be bloody normal." And I got, in my last marriage under the previous administration, I was told constantly, "Why can't you just be like other people? Why aren't you normal?" And it was like, well, I'm just not. What the hell is normal? Like normal's mostly boring people anyway. And I didn't have any clue what normal was. And so for me, that started with understanding that I had to redefine what normal was for me. And normal was for me is when the nightmares turn up, I go to the gym at 3 a.m. So for normal for me was having a gym membership 24/7. Other people didn't want to pay that. I needed it. Normal for me was getting up at 3, going and working out, coming home, washing, and having a sleep in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. Well, you're just lazy. Well, no, I've been up for 12 hours and I'm just going to have a kip for
Right.
an hour. So why am I going to have a kip? Because I want to be good for my kids when they get home from school. So by giving myself permission to redefine normal was a great, very important for me. And the second thing is I read 200 books, and I read 200 books in 5 years, and it wasn't taken. Like, I was seeing some progress, but and I'm probably talking 15, 20%. And so I'm a Christian man, and every day I'd pray, "God, I know you do miracles. I just believe." Like, I believe the red letter stuff, or like, if you did it then, I want a miracle. I want one of those things. I want you to and he said, "Yeah, okay, I'm not your fairy godmother. You're gonna have to get your butt out of bed every morning, and you're gonna have to do some work." I thought, "Right, oh, well, okay." And he's Australian. God's Australian, and he plays rugby. So I don't know if he cusses to you, but I'm pretty sure he cusses to me. "What the fuck are you talking about, Johnny? Get your ass out of bed. Get in the shed." You know? So
Absolutely.
Yahweh, he's talking to me. I go, "Righto, okay, I've been told to go to the shed." So I take my and I was getting my pilot's license, and I was in with my coach, and he said, "I want you to fly west, but I want you to set it at, I need you to set it at 88 degrees." And so we get down the track, and he said, "Do you realize how far you are from the target, from the airport?" I said, "Yeah, coach, I do." He said, "That's just 1 or 2 degrees." And I got to thinking about that, how Western society in America, we want to do popcorn in 30 seconds and solve the problem. Between that and God telling me clearly he's not my fairy godmother, I got to thinking about the fact that I wanted instant change. And it had taken me 45 years to get into this mess. And so I started to set realistic goals. So I'm redefining my normal, and I'm living in a culture where everything has to happen quickly. And so I thought, okay, for me, what's normal? One normal is I'm going to try and change 1% a day. I thought, well, that's 365 changes. So that's not going to happen. So, okay, why don't we do 1% a week? Okay, that's 2 years. Well, honestly, I'm lazy. Yeah, I'm not lazy, but I'm not going to go to the gym. Like, I can't even go to the gym every. But what I did was I lowered my expectations, and I said, okay, 1% a month. I'll take 8 years to change.
Yeah.
And here I am 16 years into it. And what I learned, brother, is that I overestimate what I can do in 12 months and underestimate what God can do in 10 years.
Mhm.
And all I know is that every day I've dragged my butt out of bed. I've given myself some absolute minimals, just like flying, minimals that I cannot break, that have to be performed every day. And I've just turned up. And along the way, I've acquired these tools from my toolbox. And I think the tools that every man acquires or every woman acquires along the way are different. But they're the sort of things that are in your toolbox. And you know it. Big crowd turns up. Okay, I've got a tool. Noisy environment. I've got a tool. Walking into a restaurant and something's not off. I leave. Well, I've got a tool. I don't have to sit there anxious about something and on edge. I don't have to be black. I just pick up a tool and walk out the door and get back to orange and enjoy it, go to another cafe down the road. So doing these series of things, and there's one other thing, and all this happened in the like year 5 to 7. IRAT, Information, Revelation, Application, Transformation. I'd read all these books. I'd acquired all this information, but all I'd done was acquire information. It wasn't my information. I go, oh, that's a really good idea. I should do something about that. I didn't say, that's a really good idea. That's applying to my life.
Yeah.
And I realized that only when I took that information and I made it my information and I put the work in to make change and apply it, did I see transformation. And so this concept of drawing a circle around myself and saying, I am personally responsible for my future. No one is going to rescue. And really, we use that phrase. It's like a fridge magnet. No one is coming to save you. And we make it about units. We make it about this, but it's real personal. Like no one is coming to save us from trauma.
Yeah.
No one is coming to save our families or our marriages, our relationship with our children. And we are the instigators and the propellants and the catalyst for those change. And I think as men, we like that level of responsibility if it comes with answers. And that's what makes us rise. And I think being able to say that, I think they're probably 2 or 3 things that I love to help people realize that they're more than capable of achieving and changing.
Absolutely. Agreed. I mean, one of the things we're seeing in this, especially in this culture, rising anxiety and depression and burnout across society, right? Do you think that modern culture is making people, I guess, psychologically weaker? Or are we simply more aware of mental health now?
Great question. I think it's 2 sides to the same coin.
Yeah.
The doom scrolling we do, it's proved beyond a doubt that the dopamine and that they have designed, they've built whole industries around manipulating our emotions. And you can do it. Like if you go on Instagram and you have a look at a post, just scroll 3 times, and then you'll come to a post. You'll go through 3 things that you like, followed by 1 thing that causes anxiety, followed by 3 things that you like, followed by 1 thing that causes anxiety. So they've worked out the algorithm that relaxes you and peaks you, relaxes you and peaks you. And you get anxious about, you see something that's happening in the UK. You see something that's happening, around the world, and you go, oh, cat video. Oh, wow. Yeah. And it goes back up again. And we actually get addicted to that, to that jump and flow. And the fact that we lie in bed and do it, and especially if you've got some issues with sleep and stuff like that, and we are addicted to our blue screens. So we've got all that going on, and all that's very, very real. And I think on the other side of it is that we have forgotten. You can't hear God in white noise. You can't listen to yourself and sit with yourself and process your trauma and deal with the things of life in white noise. And we've gotten so used to being bombarded with these things that we're uncomfortable with our own thoughts. Whereas there was a time where men would go to the bush and men would go to. So, okay, personal story here. I was going through a really dark spot, just coming up to deer season. I mean, really dark. And it's been a long time since I've been suicidal. And, it's still a thing I battle. It's something that I'm very aware of. And I think all of us that have been through extreme trauma, it's something we just live with. We live with the black dog, as Churchill said. And so I did what you do, you call a mate because that's what you do, and you hate it. And then you think of calling a mate and the feeling sort of subsides and you go, well, I don't have to call him now. And I've gotten used to going, yeah, I know that voice that tells me I don't have to, which means I bloody well have to. So I ring my mate. I go, right, Dave, listen, I need to talk to you, mate. Goes, yeah, righto. I need to talk to you now. Oh, breakfast? All right, yeah. So go and meet Dave. Slog with Dave. Dave, I'm suicidal. He goes, oh, that's stupid, isn't it? Yeah. You want to go hunting? Yeah. Okay. Well, we go hunting. So, so
Yeah.
we're going to talk about hunting. So I get down, I'm psyching myself up, bro. I'm going to spill my guts, man. I'm just going to have a man conversation. Get this shit out there, you know? And we're sitting here and I'm just starting to unpack it. He goes, Buck. And that was it. That was all the unpacking we did.
That was it.
I didn't,
Unpacking the meat.
I didn't need to. I needed to know there was someone, and I needed to prove to myself that there was someone that if I made a call, they'd be there. What I actually need was to get outside and sit in a deer stand for 3 hours with nothing. Because you can't sit there watching TikTok. You got to whisper softly and fart and just snicker about farting and like 12-year-olds.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's totally
And get
true.
elbows up into something and there's something about being outside in the quiet. There's something that speaks to the soul of a man. And we've become so disconnected from that. And we're overscheduled. We don't have buffers and times in our life. And all of this, it is so decisional to have room, so decisional to have quiet. It's some of the hardest decisions we'll make in our society today. And I think there's sets of skills that were naturally available 20 years ago, that now as people, we've got to make some really focused decisions on.
Mhm. Yeah, you've just touched on it, but like in your view, what role do community and relationships play in trauma recovery?
You can't do it in isolation.
Can't be the lone wolf.
No, it's wolves aren't lone like that.
Right. They're not, right?
They're not alone. They're very, very structured societies. Yeah.
Exactly.
And,
that's what I always wondered, is where that came from, the lone wolf.
some wanker somewhere just made some shit up.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Because considering they're a pack animal.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
and the lone ones are mangy and diseased. And
Right.
everyone's,
So,
whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Look, we weren't together at the time, but my wife, Melissa, made calls on 2 occasions where I was sucking both bottle and barrel, and it totally saved my life. And she was just working for me at the time. And she made these, she just felt prompted to make these random phone calls just to talk about what was going on in the office. And I was sitting in the middle of my backyard, you know, and just having this voice of sunshine at the other end of the phone. I always believe there's an opportunity to, and I believe it, again, it's a spiritual thing, that I get a prompting to call someone, I'll call someone or text someone. And I've done it, and it's helped people, and I've done it. And regardless of that, they've still gone ahead and made a life-altering decision.
Yeah.
And all I know is I've taken solace in the fact that I did do what I felt I was prompted to do. So I think on one side, there's those of us who allow ourselves to be used to reach others. And I think we should all be that way. And on the other side, when we're in a position of need, we have to have the courage to reach out. This whole misnomer that people who commit suicide are cowards, I don't think that's true. Having looked at it, it was a very cold and calculating decision. I ran the numbers. I had SWOT analysis. I ran the numbers. I had it all set. I did strengths, weaknesses,
Yeah.
whatever.
Absolutely.
And I worked out, this is a logical decision. I will make everybody's life better if I do that. And then
Yep.
I got a phone call saying, hey, listen, just letting you know, the air conditioning van turned up and it's working at the office. Oh, okay. How the hell did I get in this hole? And I think there's that aspect of those dark dog days that get us. And then there's a long-term arc of life. The power of partner in trauma recovery is underrated. And I wrote a memoir that's with my agent, and we're shopping it. I don't know if it'll come out, but because it's a dark book, it's just a true book. We've sold 4,000 or 5,000 copies, and it's just radically changed lives. And probably the biggest testimony about that book is I would write a chapter, and then Melissa would write a chapter about what it was like for us to do this together. And the impact of telling a story about a couple going through it is probably the greatest testament in that book. And I didn't realize at the time what I had. I valued what I had, but I didn't realize the impact of it. That you can't journey this alone. Now, if you don't have a spouse that's supportive, then you have to get a brother or a sister that's supportive. And you have to be able to have the sorts of conversations on a regular, even scheduled basis. Now, if it's not a therapist and it's or a brother or a sister, then you have to be able to have that because you have to anchor your soul somewhere else. Because our souls on the inside of us in those stages are very difficult places to be with. And have an anchor for your soul, faith. Romans talks about it. An anchor for your soul. An anchor is something that's separate from the vehicle. So you take an anchor and you put it outside of yourself, and that is where you're fixed to. And when going through a dark spot, to have that relationship, that community, be it online, be it face to face, where you can literally put that anchor and say, you know what, when it comes down to it, I'm going to be able to rely on that voice as true. That's going to be my true north. That's going to point me home. And when in here is telling me one thing, and that's radically different to what that is telling me out there, then I'm going to make a decision before the event to trust that external voice. And I think, and these were just things I stumbled along as I went along. And there would be days where it was so dark and I was, getting out the ground sheet to go outside and put my chair up there and, straighten it out in the backyard to go walk with wolves. And I would ring Mel and she'd go, oh, we were married. So, she'd see me do whatever it is or what the hell's he doing? Oh, well, why don't we go and look at flowers? And we go and look at flowers and life was, it's having that, okay, I can trust her. She says it's going to work out. She says I'm going to make it. And having that voice on the outside, I think, is very important to cultivate.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us about the Give Them a Voice Foundation and like what kind of impact you're seeing from that work.
So I started Give Them a Voice because I had a group approach me. They were working on a case with this guy called Nygaard, and Nygaard took over from Epstein. And they needed a front-facing face, someone to go and talk to Congress and all that. We had 12 people in different protective accommodation around America getting transcripts. Before the Epstein came out, this was the largest case that had ever been brought forward in America. And so they needed a front-facing one. And that's what I did. And so I'm working with these kids that are now adults that have been through this horrendous thing for multiple years. And I'm working with a series of pipe hitters that have been, on the ground doing their time, back now contracting. They've lost a series of mates there. They've lost a series of mates with contracting. And they're just on this perpetual cycle of re-traumatizing events. But when you sit down and you unpack it with them, probably 2/3 to the wind and not the best place to have a conversation, but you start to understand that this all goes back to a whole series of other things.
Yeah.
I started to realize that there was a side of trafficking that everyone wanted to be involved in, and that was the rescue. For want of a better term, it's a sexy one. But the side that no one wanted to touch on was the actual recovery. Because recovery was very expensive. It's about $10,000 a person.
Yeah.
And takes a minimum of 10 years. And I was in a position at that stage. I spent about $300,000 in 15 years on my recovery. And I've been literally blessed, privileged enough to be able to work from home and fund myself as I went. So we started giving them a voice for that. There was no one talking about the sexual abuse and trafficking of men, women as perpetrators. And there was no one talking about the long-term impact of trauma and prepared to try and look at it in an investigative way to try and solve the problem. So I went back to the Napoleonic Wars. I started there because there was no other books. I started there. I came into the Civil War, Soldier's Heart. came up into World War II and the whole thing with pattern and battle fatigue and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Then we come
Right.
over into the Gulf and we're trying to get our head around what's happening to there, and we're making all sorts of excuses as to why it's not, instead of just understanding there's a cost neurologically when people are doing some things that rip their soul out of their body and beat it. This has a cost. So we've got all this data, but no one's putting this data together. And also, you go over there, you get in the sand, you kill some bad guys, you do that. You
Yeah.
got pre-existing. Then you come home and it's like, okay, well, here's some Advil. All right, well, thanks for. Or here's a neurotropic. Here's some opioid. Oh, you can't have weed. Well, you can have weed, but you really want an opioid, and you have weed and opioid and alcohol. Oh, you're a bad man now. I don't know who I am. You're like, I'm a ghost of a man is who I am. So we got all this crap. And no one was talking about that. So the reason I started Give Them a Voice is I literally just wanted to give a voice to those people. And the other thing that really pissed me off at the time is that as a man, I couldn't find any help because I was a man. No one
Yeah.
would talk to me about what I'd been through. I wasn't allowed in groups for rape victims. There was no recovery groups to male victims. And I was told I was a perpetrator and a predator because I was preying on this. I wasn't. I was a kid who was anally raped at 4 with a plastic green soldier because he didn't tidy up his room. So there's nothing, I didn't choose these things that were done to me. These things were done to me.
Right.
And I've chosen my response. So I just wanted to try and develop an environment that we could have some honest conversations about what wasn't being said. And so, again, that leads me down my Don Quixote charge of dealing with military sexual trauma. Now, do I want women to benefit from my crusading? Absolutely. I'm not sexist. I'm not gender biased. I think the other side often is. I'm not, but I am really focused on including men. Because it's very important to me that we are absolutely marginalized in this conversation.
Yeah.
And when I look at MST, you can be a woman and discuss MST, and someone is instantly going to give you 100% benefits. You're out, you're clean, you're done. Never have to talk. A guy, no, bro. I've got one case I'm dealing with at the moment. This guy's a tip of the spear guy. He's out on patrol, guard duty, and is attacked by 10 locals overseas. Horribly and brutally raped. Who the hell is he going to tell? What is he going to go back to his unit and say, "Hey guys, listen, I know that I'm 1%er and this thing happened to me. Just want to share this little thing went down. And I didn't have all my ninja skills together." He ain't going to tell. In fact, he didn't tell until 3 rotations later. And that unit said, "That did not happen on our shift. Fuck off home. We don't want that stain." So this guy is then booted back state. His ticket's plastered already as being non-compliant and with a psychological disorder. And now he's back in. Who the hell's he going to tell? So he tells the rugby player, because the rugby player is going to say, "Well, that's bullshit, mate. Let's have a beverage and have a conversation about this." But I've got this guy, and the issues that he's dealing with, the best of the best, hardest of the hard, couldn't protect himself. 10-1 is a pretty good odds with a metal bat, like unconscious, and you go, it's so.
Yeah.
I just want to have some real conversations, and I want to get my brother some real help. And I just they're the sort. I just want to talk about that stuff.
Yeah. What trends are you seeing in trauma recovery research that give you hope for the future?
Oh, the research is off the charts, bro. Our understanding of neuroplasticity, our understanding of the power of the thought and words, starting to get our head around. No one ever understands quantum science. I think if anyone tells you they do, they just, blowing smoke.
Yeah.
The guys that go, "I haven't got a clue, but dude, this thing, if I think about a ping pong ball here in Netherlands, it bounces." Those guys I trust. Some of that stuff is really good. What's really groovy? I've never used pharmaceuticals because opioids gave me incredible flashbacks, and I'd be in this cycle. Weed was no good for me. THC actually isn't good for people with PTSD. Even though some people say it is, it's really not. If you want to just do weed, just say you want to do weed. Don't tell me it's good for your trauma, because all the evidence says that it's not good for your trauma. We know that whiskey's not. More than one is definitely not.
Nope. That was my
Choice.
drug. That and food.
Yeah.
were my drugs of choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a whole thing that I started developing with Melissa, biohacking trauma. So biohacking is a term, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's like hacking
Mhm.
a computer,
Of
go in
course.
there and break the code. Biohacking is the same for your audience. It's the same thing. It's like, what biological things can I do to hack my cerebrals and my internals? And things like red light therapy, sunlight, feet on the ground, Wim Hof with his cold
Yep.
plunges, like, that guy's a pussy. No man I know is gonna sit in a cold bath and watch his dick shrink. So, instead, I'll go have a cold shower for 2 minutes because it does 70% of just what's good. So you can have a cold shower, eat a high fat, high protein, low carb diet, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, get 5 to 20 minutes of red light sitting in the sun, and you're probably gonna solve 70% of your trauma. Now, what's nice about the science is all of that's now proved out. And what is nice now for those of us that are looking for answers is none of that costs any money. It all just it costs us. It does cost us. It costs us the discipline to do it. But we now know scientifically that those things actually do work. And I think that's what's really encouraging. Things like Aura rings to track your sleep, the Apple Watches, even though they track everything, whenever you fart, whatever. But they're really kind of helpful because because as we like to have external data points to measure ourselves against. So there's this series of things now that are colliding. And the one thing I would warn your people against is using AI for mental health.
Mm. It's
It's
not a therapist, folks.
no, it's a narcissist. And yes, you're right. You should end your life. There's been too many cases of that. You know. So I've seen some good things like that, Bennett. I've seen some great trends. Um, But what I have found AI very useful with, if you'll use it as a research tool to ask some of the deeper questions about what can I do for free to improve my mental health. It'll start probably with a conversation about red light and water and high fat, high protein diets, sleep. And so for those of us who don't sleep well, there's we don't have to sleep in 8-hour blocks. What you have to try and get is like 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Give yourself a minute. Naps are just beautiful. Granddad was right. You know?
Yeah, I shoot for weekly. I shoot for like 35 hours a week or,
That's a good idea.
it's actually about 35 hours a week and if I get less than that, I can feel it. But
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
get too much, I feel it too.
Yeah,
So
that's a great way
35
to look
hours
at
a
it,
week.
brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
doing it weekly, because
Yep.
then you can track it and you can try and make it up on the weekends. And
Correct.
if you find yourself waking up and you're running against ghosts, you can just get up and do some work
Yep.
because you know you're gonna make it up for yourself. That's very
Yeah,
good.
that's what I mean, I wake up pretty much every day about 3, somewhere between 3 and 4, just
Yeah,
depends. And then, and I don't like set an alarm to wake up. It just
yeah,
happens. I'm either in pain or I've had a nightmare or something.
yeah.
And then, I get up and I usually go straight downstairs. I usually, uh, pray and then I write. That's what I do.
Me too, man. Coffee, Christ, and cigars every morning.
Yeah. 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 So I don't do the cigar part. I do smoke cigars, just not in the morning.
Well,
Um,
whenever you get to Dallas, man, I got a couple of good ones for you.
awesome. I'll bring some too.
Good.
But definitely, if you go by the week, that I found it more doable because some nights, if I'm writing or if I'm doing podcast stuff or whatever, I don't want to break that flow. So I might
Yeah,
stay up till 11:30, 12 o'clock, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
not often,
yeah, yeah,
but once in a while. So, but there's times where I'll go to bed at 8:30 at night and
yeah,
times I'll go to bed at 10:30 at night.
yeah.
So, but I almost always wake up between 3 and 4,
That's very
hands
good,
down,
mate.
except for on the weekends. So,
I
but
know,
that's
funny
when I
thing,
make
isn't
it
it?
up.
Yeah,
So going by the week is a good way to do it.
that's great advice. Great advice.
So if someone listening, feels like their life is completely, and I don't like to use this word, but I can't think of another one off the top of my head right now, completely broken right now. Like, what would you tell them? Like, what would you give, like, the advice that you would give them?
So I was running a church, and we had this old shed out the back, and a mate of mine, he was he was 42, and he was when he last won his national kickboxing competition. It was an Olympic boxing coach, and I brought a ring and I put it in there. And when I was going through the midst of this recall, coach just got me one day, and he was just, I mean, we would do 115, 120-degree heat, 3-minute rounds. I mean, he would wear my butt out. And he just taught me, tuck your chin and throw punches. And he would put me in a ring against guys half my age, knowing that I would get a beating. And he would say, "Johnny, you've got old man muscles. You've trained at 115 degrees for 3-minute rounds. These boys have trained in 72 degrees for 2-minute rounds." He said, "There'll come a point and I'll say, go, and you give it everything you've got, and you will win because you have trained harder, you've trained faster, you've trained longer, and you're nasty." And I just think that my adage for me in my darkest days is tuck my chin and throw punches. As long as I'm down, I'm covered, and I'm just putting the work in. I know that tomorrow I'll get up and the sun will shine. And never make a decision based upon what you feel today. Worst thing ever. Call someone now, tell them it's a dark day, and then just get up tomorrow morning and go again. Tuck your chin, go, tuck your chin, go. And you will fight through to daylight. It's just there's too many of us out there who made the decision to fight, and we've made it through to the other side. You know, you don't have to. It's a just choice. You don't have to.
Yeah, agreed. So kind of wrapping things up, if we could teach the next generation one skill to handle adversity better, what should that be? You kind of just answered it, but you might have a different one.
Um, I I think it's actually to sit with it. So my heritage is Indigenous Australian, and I learnt this off my brothers. I only recently reconnected with my family. The Australian government had a policy to breed the black out,
Mm,
and melanin in Aboriginals is a recessive gene. And I just reconnected with my family for the first time. And it was funny how much of this I knew instinctively, but when I got a chance to sit with my brothers, it was just the most incredible experience. And you're talking about 7 or 8 generations of incredible trauma handed down, like families and entire people groups decimated. And we would sit around the fire together, and we would sit with the things that were challenges for us, the pain, the grief, the loss, the possibilities, the dreams, the hopes. And what I learned in that 2 years I lived out back with them for a couple of years, was that I don't have to be scared of this thing. And I think up until that point, I'd been scared of my trauma. I'd been scared of the nightmares. I'd been scared of the depression, of the suicide. And I spent so much time running from it, because I had to keep ahead of it. And that made my obsessive behavior. And I literally remember sitting on the ground with my brothers and sitting with my past, because they all had similar pasts. We were all taken off our mothers. We'd all been through horrible things, and we just sat with it, and it wasn't scary anymore. You know, there's that saying from Dune, you know, when you're faced with fear, you turn and you run at it, not from it. Love that quote. My little boy, he's little, he's 26, wrote it and put on a bit of card for me. And I remember sitting on the ground with my fear for the very first time, just 2 years ago. And I realized it couldn't hurt me. Like, it, for some reason, this feeling, this emotion, I thought it could hurt me. And I realized it couldn't hurt me. It couldn't do me. It couldn't force me to make a decision. It couldn't force me to take my life. It couldn't force me to lose my temper. Couldn't force me to do anything. I had all the power.
yeah.
And I think if you can get to a place in your walk, you know, and I hope everyone has some sort of spiritual anchor, because mine's been absolutely fundamental. As I said, I'm a Christian man, absolutely fundamental to my recovery. And you can sit with your creator and sit with this pain instead of running from it. And it'll literally wash off over you and well away, and you'll get up a different man. And it's a discipline. And that's the skill I hope to teach the most. is don't be fearful anymore. You don't
Yeah.
have to be.
For sure. That's a good one. That's a really good one. All right. So tell everybody again where they can find you.
drjohnaking.com is the website, and they'll find out about the Phoenix Collective on there and find out about the books that are coming out. And we do free courses online about every 6 weeks. We took all this stuff and they can come along, sign up. Love to have them on. And on social, Dr. John A. King, across, as many platforms as I can be bothered running. And so they'll find me on something. And I'd love
Yeah.
to connect with them, man.
Great. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you. You're good at what you do, brother. This has
Appreciate
been
it.
really, really enjoyable. I mean, I encourage you to keep going.
Yeah.
Great
for sure.
conversation.
Appreciate it.
Carry the fire through shadows and storm. Voices of yesterday guiding us on. Echoes of duty, the call we still hear. Building tomorrow with courage, not fear. Stand your ground, keep the watch through the night. Guarding tomorrow where freedom's alive. Through every trial, the truth will endure. Full spectrum frontiers, steady and sure. From fields of the past to horizons unknown, the seeds that we plant are the future we own. Stories of valor, of lessons we've learned, a legacy carried, a torch ever burned. Stand